Hi everyone, it's Dr. Ramani. Today we're going to talk about what narcissism is and, more importantly, what narcissism isn't. And before I get to that, because this is important for all of you to know, those of you who are interested in learning more about healing, because we talk about healing, but some people want the deep dive, go to the video notes, click that link. You want to do a healing program? I've got one, so come check it out. All right, so let's talk about this. It's about time we talk about what narcissism isn't, so we understand what narcissism is. Let's face it, folks, in the world of the internet, too many cooks burn the soup or make the soup toxic. So this is a new series I'm doing on what the key terms in the world of narcissism are, and more importantly, what they are not, what they don't mean. Because sometimes knowing what something is not can help us understand what it is. So let's start with basics. I'm just going to go a quick overview. I don't think we can ever overview this enough, but let's do a quick overview on what narcissism is. I already know some of you, your eyes are glazing over, but just listen. It's that lack of empathy or the variable empathy, grandiosity, arrogance, envy, validation seeking, need for control, entitlement, superficiality, egocentricity, dysregulated emotions like rage, and poor frustration tolerance. I mean, you know the drill, right? Narcissistic folks are also quite insecure, which is why folks with this personality style, we see that they're quite thin-skinned and reactive. And then sometimes they apologize after they scream at you, and then they hope it all goes away. In part, that's because narcissistic folks carry a lot of shame. And that list of stuff, the lack of empathy, entitlement, all of that, that's the defense against the shame. But they project that shame onto other people, like you, and that's where behaviors like gaslighting and manipulation come from. So that's what narcissism is. Let's talk, though, about what is not necessarily narcissism. Number one is confidence. Confidence doesn't mean someone's narcissistic. Lots of confident people are not narcissistic. Just being confident and voicing that confidence is not narcissistic. But being self-reflective with that confidence is what makes it healthy. For example, simply saying, I know how to do that. That's confident. Saying, I know how to do that, and none of you idiots could do this as well as me, so please get out of my way and stop dropping my IQ by making me talk to you. Maybe that might be confident, but it sounds a little narcissistic. Number two thing that's not narcissism is anger. Not all anger is bad. Anger is a normal human emotion. We feel it at times of injustice, unfairness, helplessness, and powerlessness. We often pathologize anger in certain people, for example, in women. Dysregulated anger? Now that's another issue. Anger that comes up really suddenly, that manifests in a personal attack, that scares other people. Now that may be narcissism. Appropriate expression of anger? Not narcissistic. The third thing that's typically not narcissism is sometimes putting your needs first. Selfishness has a bad brand because we assume it is about always putting your needs in front of others. Sometimes selfishness is on point. Skipping out on something to get some rest, scheduling something at a time it works for you, and being clear about that ahead of time, honoring your bedtime, honoring your mealtime. Now, if you're inflexible and always it has to be your way and never make space for other people's needs, that's not going to work. That's what we see in narcissism. But your needs first, not necessarily narcissism. Number four thing that's not narcissism is caring about your appearance. Sometimes people will call folks out on social media for posting a really attractive picture of themselves, or calling them out if they get cosmetic surgery, or spend time and focus on fashion or cosmetics. Those folks may be called narcissistic. Those interests do not necessarily make a person narcissistic. If a person does those things, cares about their appearance and all of that, but they still have good empathy and self-awareness, then that's just a person who cares about their appearance. If they are doing it, if they're obsessed with their appearance to the exclusion of other things or people, or dissing other people about their appearance, or doing it solely for validation, that's when it becomes a problem. Number five thing that's not narcissism is being ambitious. Shout out to all my Capricorns out there. Everyone thinks we're narcissistic. December 30th here, right? Ambition, whether it's due to our star sign or behavior or personality style, it's not a bad thing. Having goals, pursuing them with passion and focus and assiduousness, all of that's great. Being grandiose and expecting other people to fall into line with what you want, that may not work. Talking about big goals and never doing anything to achieve them, not so healthy. Being ambitious and contemptuous, no way. But ambition by itself does not a narcissist make. Number 6 is being extroverted. Not all extroverts are narcissistic. Narcissists in general are actually more likely to be extroverted. They need other people. However, by itself, extroversion is simply a personality style and a preference. Healthy extroverts know that they enjoy being around other people and flourish when they are. Do they need them? They don't know about need, and it's not because they need an audience. A healthy extrovert simply knows it is a preference. Number 7 thing that's not necessarily narcissism is being charismatic. And I know what you're thinking. Dr. RAMANI, you said that charismatic people should make us a little nervous. And yes, they should. Because charisma is so conflated with love bombing and narcissism, we do need to be on a little bit of alert when we witness charisma. But there are non-narcissistic charismatic people out there. If the charismatic person is just that person who sparkles and is engaging and connects and has empathy and goodness and kindness and is self-aware, keep that person around because that is rare. Number 8 thing that's not narcissism necessarily is being charming. Same drill. Not all charming people are narcissistic. Charm by itself is not a signifier of narcissism. Some people are just skilled conversationalists, or they just notice other people. My warnings around charm and charisma are that you can't let charm and charisma be the perfume that covers the other stink of problems like lack of empathy or issues like narcissism. You can't excuse that just because someone's charming. Number 9 thing that's not narcissism is people who love themselves. I think there are about 3 people on the planet who actually genuinely love themselves. And listen, if everyone truly loved themselves, I'd be out of a job. There would be no wars. I don't even think there'd be religion. Insecurity is what mobilizes our economies, our politics, and our commerce. But if someone actually loved themselves and is also empathic and self-aware, then that is a human unicorn. The myth of Narcissus has confused everyone, leaving them thinking, oh, Narcissus fell in love with his reflection. No, he was cursed to stare at himself and be able to love and admire only himself. And then he ended up killing himself. That's not so pretty. I have never met someone who truly loves themselves. Remember, love is the opposite of narcissism. Number 10 thing that is not narcissism are people who cheat. Many cheaters are narcissistic, but not all. I think in the moment that they're cheating, that's a narcissistic moment, yes, because they aren't accounting for the other person. Yes, the vast majority of cheaters may be, but I think some cheaters are desperate, simply insecure, immature. Some are slow-witted, and some are drunk or high. None of these are excuses for the cheating, by the way. That's unacceptable behavior. But some cheaters actually are not narcissistic. Number 11 thing that's not necessarily narcissism is people who talk about themselves. Speaking about yourself is not always indicative of conceit. Some people are actually interesting. Some people tell a good story, and some people don't get out much and are excited to have a chance to share about themselves. If the person talking about themselves is able to hold space for another person's talking and sharing, it's a real back and forth, then nope, not narcissism. Someone who entirely hijacks a conversation and only talks about themselves, possibly. Number 12 thing that's not necessarily narcissism are people who gaslight. Yup, there are actually some non-narcissistic gaslighters out there. Some gaslighters just kind of need to win or may be insecure, but they may not be completely unempathic or entitled or arrogant and may snap out of it if someone points it out to them. Some gaslighters are really anxious in social situations, and so they gaslight to be able to hold ground. By and large, gaslighting is a tool of manipulation, so it's never healthy. But not all players in this space are necessarily narcissistic. A good rule to remember is that all narcissists are gaslighters. Not all gaslighters are narcissistic. Most are, but not all. And everyone, did I miss any? Because if I did, drop us an email. I can take them on. It's important for you to know this so you can understand the pattern called narcissism, or maybe not just sort of think that this label fits someone incorrectly. You need the key ingredients to make it narcissism. I'll give you an example. Pepperoni isn't a pizza. It's pepperoni. Now you add it in there with some dough and cheese and sauce. That's a pizza. The stuff that isn't narcissism by themselves, like the being confident, that's the pepperoni. You need all the other stuff, the lack of empathy, the entitlement, the arrogance, etc. for it to be narcissism. And sorry, our lights kind of went out during this video, a little bit spooky, but I still hope you enjoyed it and I made my point. Thanks again.